All right, we've got head coach Eric Ramsay joining us. Eric, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Andy, could you kick us off, please?
Eric, what were your overall thoughts on the match?
It was chaos. It certainly wasn't the match that we wanted it to be. Part of me, um, based on what people have told me about coming here, expected perhaps it to be the case. Maybe not quite to that extent, but I think we leave here happy to have taken a point. I think if someone had said that we take a point beforehand, given everything that goes with coming to play in Colorado, I think I would have taken it. Yes, of course, I would have much preferred that we produced a better level of performance, but I'm also having to try and evaluate that and feed back to the players and talk to the players within the context of a set of conditions that I've never experienced before. I don't know to what extent they influence the performance. I don't know to what extent you can separate elements of our performance from the conditions as a whole, but I can certainly say that we didn't look like the team that we've been over the course of the last 5 games in the opening stages of the game, and it became very clear that we were going to find it difficult to play well here. So obviously that influenced our approach. It's, to me, probably one of those that I will try and erase from my memory to a certain extent, because I know we're not going to play in those conditions again. I know those conditions really influence the way games are played here. The fact that we showed some real battling spirit and to an extent executed some of the game plan okay, I'm happy, and I think we move on swiftly.
All right, we'll go with Matthew and then Andy again. MJ, go for it. All right, MJ, we can't hear you, but we'll come back to you. Andy?
Eric, it looked like aerial duels were particularly difficult for you guys. I think they led to all three of the goals. What did you feel like in that facet of the game? You guys weren't doing what you needed to.
We really struggled with the ball today. We didn't show any signs, I would say, of coming near to the team that we've been when we've been at our best with the ball. Uh, so that leads to us playing forward very quickly. It means that we're not well connected to pick the second balls up when they drop. We give an awful lot of space away behind the back line once we've played forward. So a combination of playing forward too quickly, not being competitive enough for the duels, leaving too big a space behind the back line. Yeah, I would say they would be the three biggest factors, but it starts with not having our fair share of the ball, I suppose. But again, I'm trying to make sure that I'm weighing in the circumstances here, because they certainly play their part.
All right, MJ, we'll see if we got you going here.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Yeah, got you.
You mentioned that the result maybe not surprising based on what some players had told you. Can you tell me more about what the players did tell you?
No, I mean, people find it difficult to come here and play. I don't think that's a secret. Players say the ball moves differently to how it moves elsewhere. Obviously, it's very. I mean, I felt myself. I went for a run this morning. You can feel it instantly. So I know that's no surprise to anyone who's been around the league for a long time. It's obviously it's new to me. So I think there's far more unpredictability to coming here. So we were conscious of that. We wanted to try and manage the game and be sensible with the height that we took up when we were defending, the way in which we managed set play moments, and to a certain point, the first 5-6 minutes aside, we were able to execute that. But that led to a pretty ugly performance, I would say, and not one that I would like to see us produce again.
All right, we'll go with John and then MJ again.
Coach, you've spoken about how you can control a game without having the ball, without having possession. Was this a too extreme example of that?
Yeah, we don't want to defend that. We certainly don't want to defend that deep. I think it became pretty clear after a certain period of the game that we didn't look as sharp as we normally look as a back line. I don't know, again, to what extent the altitude plays its part there. We did look very sluggish, very slow to drop, very slow to defend the space. So part of the solution there is obviously to try and take away some of that space and to defend a little bit lower, which we did to relatively good effect. Certainly in the first half, in the closing stages, and I felt like that was probably the way to continue the game in the second half. It didn't feel like, for me, there was a quick fire way at half time to make us immediately better on the ball, to have more control, to find more energy. I think that almost the course of the game had been set from that point. So yes, we tried to freshen it up with the way we used the substitutes. But in some senses, it had an air of inevitability about it in that second half, that we were going to end up defending our box for long periods, and obviously they're attacking their crowd, which certainly contributes to the amount of energy that they finish the game with. So you're hopeful that we're going to finish the game level, and at best we're going to have a couple of chances on the counter attack, which we did and came very close with. So I won't be drawing too many meaningful conclusions from this game, because I think it's so unique, this set of conditions. So I don't think there's a great deal that I'll be taking forward, and I won't be dwelling on my feedback with the players.
MJ?
When you look at the Cabral's second goal, which came from a long ball over the top, Colorado certainly isn't the only team that has chosen to try to go over your defensive block rather than through. What needs to be tweaked from a defensive standpoint on defending those long balls?
Well, you can't be everything, would be my first response. So you can't be a team that's very compact and stop teams playing through you, and also be able to defend all the space that you're leaving behind. So to a certain extent, there's a little bit of collateral damage there. Obviously, when we're at our best, we can defend with a high line. We can defend the space in behind because players make good decisions. They're able to concentrate. They're quick to drop. They're really well connected. They cover distance as well. Obviously, we weren't at today. But I would say that's a consequence of a load of things. Obviously, we don't get good enough pressure on the ball from the front, so the ball comes on top of us far more often than it would if we were defending at our best. We didn't look like we were able to concentrate well. We didn't look particularly sharp across the back line. So all that weighs in. So there's no one quick fix. And obviously, I accept that we are going to look like we are vulnerable over the top of a high back line, but that's the same for anyone who plays in that way. So it's swallowing a little bit of that, I suppose.
All right, we've got time for a couple more questions. We'll go Andy, followed by John, and then MJ. Go for it, Andy.
Eric, what did you feel like was Sangben's ability to get in behind? Obviously, his speed was crucial in setting up those two goals. How did you feel like he was threatening tonight?
Yeah, he was crucial in obviously in how we sort of define the way in which we want to play, the spaces that we want to make sure that we could exploit when the ball turned over, and he did that really, really well. Obviously, I'm immensely pleased that he's starting to rack up the goals and he's being decisive in front of goal, because he gets a load of chances, and I think he could be, if he finds a level of ruthlessness, he could be I'm sure one of the most productive forwards in the league. So that was a nice step for him, and I would also nod to the fact that he emptied out on a pitch. He ran, he was aggressive, he covered a lot of space, and that's what the game needed from our wide players. So a good performance in a difficult set of circumstances from him.
John, go ahead.
Coach, we've spoken about long goal kicks and what you're trying to accomplish from long goal kicks. Did you get what you were hoping for tonight? It looked like some of them were a little bit wayward to me.
Yeah, not at all. That was a big part of the game that we were really disappointed with, because we fell into a rhythm that I thought we'd gotten out of, and yeah, in a lot of cases, sort of lacking precision, poorly set up, leaving too much space in behind, and yeah, sort of not executing the strategy that we had in mind and had set out. So that probably, if there is anything to take from that, it will be that, because it was an area of the game where I feel like it wasn't anything to do with the conditions. It was mostly to do with setup and levels of concentration. So that was a disappointing part of the game.
All right, we'll have MJ close us out here.
Can you talk about the central midfield, whether that's Lude, Harvey, Dotson? They all seem to play really well today.
Yeah, it's of course. It was a certain type of game. The ceiling was pretty low, I would say, as to how well they could play, in the sense that we didn't have very much of the ball. We didn't use the ball well, so it was about second balls being competitive in the middle. And yeah, they had some good moments, but I don't think any of the players would come off the pitch today and say that they felt they played well. I don't think any of my staff would would look at that and leave here pleased with the performance, pleased with the points certainly. But it's again not one that we want to carry forward in any way.
All right, that'll be it for head coach Eric Ramsay. Thank you so much, Eric. Safe travels out to LA.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, and then we should be joined here shortly by Tani Oluwaseyi. In the meantime, we will try to get the media schedule out either tomorrow afternoon or very early on Monday, and we can confirm with you guys the outlook for potential remote media availability ahead of the LAFC game this week. All right, we've got forward Tani Oluwaseyi. Tani, thank you for joining us this evening. Andy, at the moment, you might be the only person right now. I know that John is looking to get his internet back on, so Andy will have you take it away for the moment.
Tani, what was the mood in the locker room after being able to get a point, but giving up a 2-goal lead in the process?
I think definitely mixed feelings. I think being up 3-1 and then giving up 2 goals is never a great thing. And we had a couple opportunities there to get the win as well. But I think with the way the game is, and sorry, that's a bug here. But with the way the game is and the altitude and things like that, there was a lot of guys were dealing with a lot. And ultimately, we feel that way. And Eric kind of echoed the same things. If you told us before the game that we could get a point on the road here, which is a tough place to play, I think we would have taken it. So I think we're going to just take the positives and work on the negatives and go on from there to LA.
How did you feel like Sang Ben was able to execute the game plan? Obviously, his runs in behind, and you found him one time, were very vital in the result.
Yeah, I think we've always prided ourselves on being a good counterattacking team. I think if you look at all 3 goals, really, they were more or less in transition. And that's something we've done well all season, and it's something that we will continue to do well, I think. And Sang did a good job of taking those 2 chances that he got. Great finishes, one with the right, one with the left. So hopefully he can continue to build on that. I know that's 2 weeks in a row from him, and hope it's just goal after goal from here for him.
I know you came out in the second half, but what did you feel like were the challenges for the team to hold on to the lead?
When you're away from home and they have a crowd behind them and they're pushing and they have the majority of possession, it's always going to be a grind out game. And it's one of those where if a couple things don't happen, I think we lead with 3 points. If we prevent a little bit less corners, I think we're talking about a different result here. But ultimately, I think the guys worked really hard, and some things just didn't go well. But it's one of those games where we'll take the positives from it and then move on from there to the next week.
How do you look at your goal being ruled on after review? I think that's the second time the KC game where you've had some pretty good timing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I knew when I left after he shot the ball, so I knew there was no chance I was offside. And you see the lino, she's kind of unsure about it. I think the ref more or less influenced her to put the flag up and then leave it to VAR. And I knew once they saw it, it would be a goal. So it's just that waiting game, which a little bit takes away from the joy of scoring. But ultimately, it's always great to get a goal.
What did you feel like were the challenges of playing in Colorado? Eric mentioned the altitude, said he felt it when he went on a morning run this morning. How challenging is it?
Yeah, I know it's a lot harder to breathe. Things you've been doing all season all of a sudden seem a lot harder. Concentration is a little affected. There's a bunch of things, and for them, this is where they play, this is where they train, so they're a lot more used to it than we are. But I think for it being as difficult as it is to come play here, whether it's with the altitude or the way they play and the great fans that they have, I think we did a pretty good job of dealing with the circumstances that we had. And that's kind of it.
Is there anything added to going to LAFC and playing there? Obviously, it's one of the marquee teams in MLS. Is there a little something added to it when you go there?
I mean, you always want to face the great teams, and LA is, like you said, is a marquee team. It's a team with a lot of really good players, with a lot of big players. And, I think we're going to have a game plan going in there, and we'll have a couple days here to work on that, to watch some tape, take things from this game that we've worked on, and look at the first game that we played against LA, and hopefully we can put a great game plan together to go into that game.
Tani, did you feel there were issues with aerial duels tonight? I think losing them contributed to all 3 goals.
I mean, yeah, I'll put my hand up first. There were a lot that I think that I could have done a lot better on. It's, with the flight of the ball and things like that, it's fairly difficult, I will say, to read that, and dealing with two big defenders who was basically 2-on-1 with me. It's always going to be difficult to win a couple of those, but I think me and Dane had a conversation about it, and I think we'll be better for it moving forward. And there were, like, not just the aerial duels, but there were a lot of things that we saw that we could have done a lot better. And I think this is just kind of a stepping stone, a learning tool moving forward.
It works for me.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much, Tani. Rest up and safe travels out west to LA.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.